of 2007, AID OIG said that our audit determines that AID's policies, procedures, and controls are not adequate to ensure against providing assistance to terrorists on the West Bank. AID properly responded in July of that year with a partner vetting system, and you spent $2.5 million taxpayer dollars on setting that system up. In In January of 2009, AID published its final rule on the vetting system. In May, Jacob Liu testified before my old committee that this partner's vetting system is in the rulemaking process, and it's our intent to become final. In June of 2009, the partner vetting system rule was made final. In March of 2010, you appeared before me when I was a House member, and you said that we are prepared for AID programs for the PVS to roll out this year. That was 2010, and we will come out with very specific plans in March 16th. That was March 16, 2010. On April 2nd, then, in a response to a letter from me, you said, you wrote in writing to me now that we will be putting this out within, quote, 1 month and should be ready to launch the program by the end of the summer. Meanwhile, you've been just getting pounded by your own IG, who says that we have no way to ensure compliance. In March of 2011, your IG said that the program was vulnerable to inadvertently providing material support to organizations for persons who commit, threaten to commit or support terrorism without the knowledge of USAID and the West Bank and Gaza. The IG also said that our Office of Compliance Specialist provided mission management summary reports of instances of non-compliance with vetting requirements. However, the position now has been vacant since March 1st of 2010. Mission management no longer receives any of these reports. Boy, this is not looking good for your running of this program. Like, really terrible. How do you answer?
Well, the partner vetting system in West Bank and Gaza has been up and running. It has not stalled. We are seeking a new person to fill the position, but we're able to continue to implement the program with respect to that point. The point that you referred to about our prior conversation on this, I can speak to. As you know, all of our missions complete anti-terrorism-based, risk-based assessments on an annual basis. We check our partners. We check our partners against lists maintained by the Office of Foreign Asset Control, and before awards are made, NGOs are required to certify that they do not provide any material support to terrorists. In addition, we require partners to adhere to basic U.S. law, which of course forbids furnishing of assistance to terrorist entities. And we've established the mechanism that you described in the West Bank and Gaza, which we feel is effective, and the IG has supported that. We've also applied that mechanism in different forms to Somalia, Yemen, and Afghanistan. At the beginning of this administration, USAID had developed, and in the context of those conversations, a very specific PVS program to test out more broadly. At approximately that time, Congress had passed an annual appropriations bill which directed us to apply the program equally to state and aid, and Jack Liu, who was in the position at the time, and I worked through that for many, many months. Since that time, we've worked to develop a very specific joint pilot with the State Department. We would propose to roll it out in 5 or so countries. We've tried to assess a range of threat environments.
So wait a minute, so after promising me that you would roll it out as of May 16th, 2010, you're now promising to re-roll it out a year later?
Well, what I wanted to suggest is we have the pilot designed, ready to go with the State Department, as we were directed to do.
Well, let me go back. Why?
And we would at this point like to consult with Congress. But the specific congressional directive around this particular pilot is something we are committed to in trying to meet the direction and to do it in a manner that covers both state and aid and covers similar types of projects and programs in a range of threat environments, as is our interpretation of the guidance. That has not stopped us from being ever more aggressive about partner vetting, especially in specific high threat environments in Afghanistan, Yemen, and Somalia, where the West Bank Gaza PVS approach has been one that we've been more aggressively pursuing in those places. And frankly, in Afghanistan in particular, where through the Terrorist Threat Financing Cell, Task Force 2010, and the Accountable Assistance for Afghanistan program, we have a very robust effort that identifies individuals, brings in the U.S. intelligence community as well as the military in that process, and that's been a real priority for us over the last 15 months. So I just want to make the distinction between the pilot congressional directive, which we are trying to meet in a joint state aid manner, and the efforts in Afghanistan that we're trying, and other places where we're trying to be very robust on our own in the context of accountable assistance for these particular environments, sir.
I didn't ask about Afghanistan.
Okay.
So let's go back to May 16th. Why did you miss the target?
Well, I did not mean to mislead in any context. I thought, please, my understanding at that point in time was we had a pilot ready to go. I didn't know what it would take to turn that into a joint state aid pilot. It took longer than I think any of us would have liked, but we're at that point now where we have it, it's ready, it's designed, and we seek congressional consultation before rolling it out.
So can you give me a date now that's more valid than the date you gave me?
Sir, I have learned from this exercise not to pick a date here, but we certainly have a proposal that we would like your feedback on.
So you are unable to give a date to assure you've got a $95 million funding request, and you are unable to say that you will put in a previously designed and paid for system in place to ensure, or let me ask you this, how many UNRWA unions are controlled by Hamas right now?
Well, let me answer. I can't answer the second question. Let me try to answer the first. I would like us to implement this pilot as has been directed as quickly and efficiently as possible. Obviously, my desire to get there was delayed by the efforts we undertook to make this a joint state and aid pilot. And we do want to do this in a manner that has appropriate congressional consultation so that we know that the countries we've selected and the range of threat environments and the data that come back from the pilot meet all of the needs and help us learn about how to then roll this out in a broader way.
So it could be another year?
I don't think it will be another year. I think we can come up here, right away with the actual consultation on the pilot plan, and based on feedback from our partners in Congress, then roll it out.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Kirk.